Welcome to the Short Term Show, the show about short-term rentals and long-term wealth, with real property owners hosting real properties who are crushing it in the vacation and short-term rental space. And here's your host, Avery Carl.
This episode of the Short Term Show is brought to you by The Short Term Shop. If you're interested in buying a short-term rental in one of the top vacation markets in America, just go to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected with an Agent. If you purchase a home with the shop, you'll have access to all of our client-only benefits, such as training on how to manage your short-term rental. So we'll teach you everything you need to know, from how to set up your Airbnb and Vrbo listings, to how to use the property management software that you'll need to streamline your business, all the way down to helping you source your local boots on the ground like cleaners, handy people, etc. We've taught thousands of people just like you how to buy and manage their vacation homes from anywhere in the world. So head on over to theshorttermshop.com and click Get Connected with an Agent to get started. I do have to mention that we're brokered by EXP, or else I get in trouble. We'll see you guys over there. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Short Term Show. I've got a super cool guest today who does things a little bit differently than a lot of the guests that we've had on previously. So very excited to hear her story. Her name is Pam Holt. Pam, you want to introduce yourself to our audience really quick?
Sure. I am, I guess foremost, I'm a real estate broker, and I've done that for many, many, many years, my entire career. I'm also an attorney, and I'm a short-term rental host, and I am a host educator, I guess you would say. But I think the thing that differentiates me from most of your guests is that I serve guests from my primary residence. And so I don't have, 100 different doors, and I just have one house that I live in that performs really well for me.
Yeah, that is different. And I'm really, really interested to dive in and hear some of this. But in your bio, it says you've been a real estate broker for 38 years.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
not to comment on appearances.
I started when I was 5, okay? So.
Yeah, I was about to say not to comment on appearances, but you don't look old enough to have been in any industry for 38 years. You look great.
Yeah, well, it'd be deceiving.
So I kind of want to dive into that really quick, because I think it takes a very specific personality type, especially that's a very long time to be a broker. And I think a lot of people don't understand that when you are a real estate agent or a real estate broker, there's a very heavy emotional toll that goes along with that. So, when you're buying a house, as an investor or as a first-time home buyer or second time, whatever you're buying, that it is an emotional roller coaster. And when you're an agent, you are on that roller coaster with your clients. And I think people who aren't in the business don't realize that we lose so much sleep. If, I've lost sleep, but probably taken years off my life worrying about people's deals and, oh my gosh, this is their last dollar that they're spending on this and we can't make this work. And, whatever is going sideways in a deal, like you have that kind of near constant anxiety if something's going wrong. And I think that, that's kind of a testament to your personality to be able to deal with that kind of, and people are going to be like, oh my gosh, this girl's such a wuss. She can't handle being real estate. That's not what I mean. I just mean, it's like, there is a definite emotional toll of being the person that's kind of shepherding people through this really huge deal in their lives. And you're in that boat with them. So how have you been able to manage that for that many years?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I have never spoken about this, but it's so true. And it's funny that you think it's part of my personality, because part of it is, but part of it isn't. So I am an introvert. And so, but for work, I extrovert my personality so that I can, kind of lead this way. And I guess the whole, kind of mama bear, part of my life comes out in full force when I'm helping people find, a place, because like you say, I really do want this to work for them. I want them to make money at the end of this. If they decide to sell, I want them to be happy and safe. And when I see them kind of making decisions that I'm like, I want to step in, because one, I want to know them, throughout this transaction and in the future. And two, I just don't want anybody to walk into a bad deal. And because I would carry it. I would carry it. So I made it a practice to try to take some of the emotion out of the transaction and to try to, which is hard for, primary residence. But I want people to see the transaction, to see that this makes sense, from a financial perspective. And so I kind of approach it as, yeah, this is your home, but this real estate needs to perform. You can't carry this, it's gotta work for you in some way, which is kind of what has led me to what I do now, which is less residential work, although I still work with clients. I work with a lot of women, as a matter of fact. But I want them to see their real estate even more differently than even when we were just buying the real estate together. So now I want them to see it function as something that can carry itself, or, not only carry itself, but maybe make you some money. So that's kind of the evolution of how things have gone over the years. But you're right. It is an emotional toll. And it is, I'm telling you, from the introvert's perspective, when I work with clients for a weekend, I have to take a couple of, some amount of time and just be by myself. I have to just, try to come back to myself because, extroverting is an effort. But that's another story. I've practiced it so many times that, I hardly feel like I can claim it anymore.
I've gotcha. So let's talk about this modern home sharing. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of almost sounds to me like you've kind of modernized the traditional like bed and breakfast model. Kind of. Maybe you're not actually making breakfast, but you're hosting them in your primary home. You're spending the night in the house with them, right? Or you're moving. Okay,
no,
never mind.
No.
So you're leaving the house.
Yeah, let me start from scratch.
You tell me. Start from the beginning.
Okay, so I live in Chicago, and I have a home with 4 bedrooms, and I have 2 daughters. And one of my daughters went off to college, and before she left, I realized that I'd spent so much time working, and in real estate, if you a lot of times if you step away from your business, you're not making money necessarily from that part of your business. And so for that reason, we didn't take a lot of vacations like I did with my family when I was younger. We would take these ridiculous vacations and we'd drive to California in our motorhome or just something crazy, all kind of like Partridge Family, like, all of us in a motorhome instead of a bus. But so we hadn't done a lot of that. And I largely because I was taking care of my parents. And so we had to be stationary. We had to be local. We couldn't travel a lot. But my daughter went off and she was doing a service project overseas in college. And I was like, you know what? I can't, I got to get over there. I got to spend some time with her. I have to let her know that if she goes somewhere, I'm going to be there. Literally, I'm going to be there. And so I decided to go and visit and step away from the business for a minute. And a friend of mine was like, oh, yeah, while you're gone, you should put your house up on Airbnb and, have somebody stay in it while you're gone. I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That is crazy. I live in my house. It's just a house. I got a dog. It's not, I don't live on the beach. Who's going to come to my house? But I was like, well, the thing is, I don't really have anything to lose because I'm going to be gone anyway. So I might as well, give it a shot. So I put the house up. Before we even leave, we have our first guest who's our first booking. So the guest is coming like the same day we're leaving. And I'm planning to be away a week because, of course, God forbid I'm away from my business any longer than that. And so we get to Africa. We're going to South Africa. We get there and I start to get more and more inquiries. And I'm like, hey, this is interesting. I didn't expect to have any inquiries. All of a sudden I keep getting, and I'm like, okay. So I kept accepting the bookings and we kept extending our trip. And by the end, we were 3 weeks and we did 3 different countries. And, the bookings kept coming. And I was like, okay, I can see this, I can see this working. And so that's where it started. My kids and I, we travel when we have guests. So we're never here. I've never met any of my guests. The first 6 months of us doing that, the house made $50,000. And, we went to Europe and Mexico and Spain, and we did a lot that first 6 months. And I started thinking, this is easier than selling real estate, frankly. And, we're seeing the world as a family. And that was really important to me. As I saw my daughter kind of moving away, I was like, we need these memories. And this is a way we can do it without me, going into savings, working more, whatever. This is somebody else is paying for these trips. So the next full year, and mind you, I can only do this when my youngest daughter has school breaks. So it's only, summer, it's a week maybe during the holidays, spring break. It's not, we actually live here. So the next full year, we did it again, and the house made over $100,000. And, that was it. I was like, okay, this is sustainable. I can do this. We can travel, we can travel together. And that's where it started. And so I teach women to do the same kind of thing. And I tell them, the first thing you have to do is separate yourself emotionally from this real estate, and this is the biggest thing for people. It's your home, yeah. And it's where you raise your kids, it's where, whatever, grandma lives there with you and all this stuff. But it's also a vehicle. And it can work for you. It doesn't have to be, a burden. It can be what it really should be, is an asset, a working asset. And so that's how we do it.
All right. Well, I have a lot of questions. That's awesome, by the way, to be able to go on those vacations and your house is making you money and it's not just sitting there. I love it. But my first question, which I think is everyone's first question, is when you do this, what do you do with your stuff? And you said you've still got a kid at home. I've got 2 kids at home and they have a ton of crap. And it sounds like yours are older than mine. They're 5 and 3. So, there's Barbies all over the place. LOL dolls is like the new thing. You are going to step on a Hot Wheel in my house at some point. So what do you do with your stuff when you have people coming in?
That's the first question I get all the time. And so one of the things we did, and this was so personally freeing for me, is that, I decluttered. I got rid of, just stuff. And I started to see it as stuff. And I wasn't going to let the stuff keep me from making these memories. And so things I hadn't, seen in years, things that were in boxes, and I wasn't even sure what was in the box, and just excess stuff that you accumulate. We started to get rid of. We started to move some of it to another house that we have, and then we packed up some stuff. So I have an owner's closet. Okay. That we put the things in that, that we really use on a regular basis. So our linens and, our toiletries and all of our stuff, and that's packed up. And it allowed us to empty out, dressers and closets and space for guests so that they, and when they come to my house, it doesn't feel like necessarily someone else is living there. So because they don't see our clothes, they don't see, our toothbrushes or whatever. We empty out drawers and things so they can have that space. And so it was an evolution. We didn't just trash everything the first time the guests came and started there. When I started to see how attractive my house was to people, and it's not to all people. This is one thing that really I stumbled over, and I was like, man, I've been doing this for 1,000 years. How did I get this wrong? I thought the type of person that would come to my house was a family, because that's who lives in my house, a family. And I thought this family would come to Chicago. I live a block from the lakefront. So I'm thinking, okay, they're going to the beach. Let me get some beach towels. Let me get some, beach chairs. And, let me do this whole thing for this family who's coming to enjoy a beach in Chicago. Nobody comes to Chicago to go to the beach. It is cold here. There's a lot of places you can go to where the beach is really nice. Chicago's beach is not, that's not why you come here. It turns out that I live walking distance from the Midwest's largest convention center. And so how did I not get this right? I get business travelers and I get small groups of unrelated colleagues who come and want to stay. They want to have separate sleeping spaces, but common gathering spaces. And they want to walk or Uber or, divvy bike or scoot down to McCormick Place and go to their trade show or conference or convention. And then they want to come back and they want to debrief and they want to hang out. And apparently they want to drink a lot of beer because that's what I find when I get back. And that's who comes. And so, I say that to say it took me a little bit to figure that out. And it just as it took me a little bit to declutter, remove things, scale down, and have a more nimble kind of lifestyle. And I love it because I don't want to pay taxes on a house to support a whole bunch of stuff. I want to be at a bistro in Paris. I want to.
Yeah, don't we all want to be at a bistro in Paris?
Hey, it's good stuff
let's
out
go.
here. Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody like break your stuff or anything, get up and walk away?
No. I had one spill. And I guess, and this was kind of shady on the people's part. They put something over the spill, so I didn't, notice it right away. But I just filed a claim, and I had that piece. Luckily, it just cleaned up really well. But I filed the claim, and I know that's something that people worry about. And so I say to them, if there's something that's really going to hurt your feelings, if something happens to it, then that's something that you take out of the house or
right.
you lock up. But I also want to say that people are not coming to your house to break your stuff or to steal your stuff or to rifle through your stuff. They're coming for whatever reason they're coming for. So they're coming for a family event. They're coming for a wedding, a graduation. They're going to the conference. It's not your stuff that is the reason they're coming,
And that is such a good point, because even if they were so I had this whole conversation with myself in my brain this weekend, because we went to New York and somebody took my luggage off of the conveyor belt and walked off with it. And I had an air tag in it. Mm. And at first in my brain, I'm like so mad. I'm like, somebody stole my luggage. And then I started thinking about it and I'm talking to the gate person and they're like, well, actually, there's this piece of luggage that was left and it did look kind of similar to mine. And they're like, they probably just grabbed the wrong thing. And in my brain, I'm still mad. I'm like, they stole it.
Yeah, I did it. And it was super embarrassing because I thought for sure this was mine. It looked identical. And I'm like, no, this is my bag. And then I'm like, oh, this is your bag. Okay.
Yeah. So, but I had to I'm like, okay, put yourself in a potential criminal's shoes. Is it a good racket to walk into an airport and grab a suitcase? Because you can only grab one or two. You're limited on what you can grab. You have no idea what's going to be in there. It's probably not going to be money. So I'm like, no, this person did not come here specifically to grab my suitcase off. That is not a good use of criminal time.
Right. It's not a good criminal strategy. Right.
Yeah. So same thing with people coming to stay in your house. They're not coming specifically to mess with your crap. They're coming because they have stuff to do. They don't care. To quote my mother, nobody's as worried about you as you think they are.
Exactly. And nobody cares about your stuff like you think they do. So, and really, how precious is your stuff? I mean, maybe people feel differently than I do, but I'm like, I bought this stuff. If something happens, I can buy it again. It's not that big a deal,
Well, continuing down the path of talking about stuff. So when you go to do this, so are you moving out for like a weekend or are you going on these big long trips like you were talking about, or a little bit of both?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily do it for a weekend in my case, although I have. But typically the conference goers are here for about 4 nights. And so sometimes I'll I can get them, or I've had situations where it's, back to back to back to back to back. So I can be gone for long stretches. I've been gone for 3 weeks. I've been gone for the summer. But I've also been gone for the weekend. And when I do that kind of thing, I will either stay at a hotel myself, because my kids like to stay at hotels. So we'll pick a fancy or a funky or a trendy hotel in town. And, it's still a fraction of what I can charge for my house. Because remember, I've got corporate travelers. So the budget, apparently is pretty large. And, if you're trying to put 4 people in 4 different hotel rooms, I mean, that's a lot of money. And so even though I charge a lot on a nightly basis for my house, it still includes a garage, a kitchen, a gathering space. It's all a better deal than 4 separate hotel rooms, for 4 colleagues. So I've been able to charge as much as $1,500 a night for my house. So I can get, a hotel room for, a portion of that. My kids are happy, and it works out. I don't do it so often for 2 nights, but I have.
Did you know there's actually a company that will help you find and purchase your first or next short-term rental? The Short Term Shop is the premier short-term rental acquisition company. They have a team of realtors with tons of experience, and most of them actually own their own properties as well. They are the best in the business and would be happy to help you with your next purchase. You can find them at theshorttermshop.com. Brokered by eXp. Theshorttermshop.com. Join me live every Thursday for a weekly Q&A all about short-term rental. If you like my vibe, if you're digging the long hair extraordinaire Cash Flow Carl and want to ask me questions in real time, join me at strquestions.com. It's a lot of fun. strquestions.com.
Okay, so my question is, and I know you teach a course on this, and we'll talk about this in a minute too. Do you have like a checklist, like a move out checklist? And I ask this specifically because I think there's a lot of people who could benefit from doing this. I personally have had a not great experience with staying in a house that someone lived in, that they move out when you check in, only because I didn't know, like they didn't disclose it up front, and their stuff was everywhere, which I probably could have dealt with had it just been myself and my husband, just 2 adults. But with little kids, I mean, I watch them like a hawk anyway. I'm kind of a helicopter parent. I admit that. But I was like all worried of like, oh, what if she dropped a pill on the floor? Or, just because people's stuff is everywhere. And I'm like, there's food everywhere, the pantry. So I was just like worried the whole time that my kids were going to get into something. So do you have like a list of best practices for doing this so that because I think it is important for the guest to feel like someone doesn't live there.
Right. I make it, when we move out, we move out. So there's nothing in our refrigerator or freezer. There's nothing in our kitchen cabinets with the exception of, condiments, seasonings, spices, maybe some staples like flour and whatever, sugar, something that someone might actually use. But any other groceries or food products that we have around, we take out because I want people to, not, I don't want them to worry like you were worrying. I don't want them to think, oh, I don't want to eat your rice, it just is a different vibe, I think, when you are very aware that people live there. I also, in my listing, I do say, this is my house. While you're here, I'll be traveling or whatever. But I let them know that. But, everything else, I don't have linens in there that aren't for them. I don't have towels. I have a stack of towels that are all for them in the linen closet. For the most part, all aspects of us are gone, put away, gone. I don't have family photos out. I'm very sensitive to the fact that someone else is coming to stay. And I wouldn't feel real comfortable, just knowing that it was their house and their stuff and all. I'd be like you. I wouldn't want to do it like that. So I tell people that they need to neutralize things as much as possible and make the guests feel like, you don't live there. But it's kind of just like when somebody's selling their home and you tell them, you got to take the clutter out, as much as you can make it neutral and not empty, because you don't want it to be soulless, but as much as you can take out, the more people can see themselves being there, their stuff. And it's the same kind of thing when you have guests coming. It's even maybe more so when you have guests coming.
I totally agree with that. And, maybe that situation I had was also because it was just kind of like dirty in general.
Oh, no, I don't do dirty. I have had quite a few guests ask me if anyone is there anyone living here, or they'll ask for things like, can we come, 2 days early? I'm like, I actually live here. You can't come 2 days early because I'm still here. So, I take that as a compliment. But I'm real particular about things. And so, I don't do dirty, I don't do clutter, and I try to provide a really high level of, of guest experience, because, I don't want somebody paying me $1,500 to get in here and they're just disappointed. That's not a good business model.
Right. So do you think that doing this has affected your in-between rental time? So has it affected the way you live in between rentals? Are you more minimalist now? Like, it sounds like maybe you have done a lot of decluttering.
Yeah, I am. I don't, when we're here during the school year, when my kid's back in school, we'll bring back the things that we need, but we don't bring back as much stuff as we used to have here. And frankly, it feels better. It feels better. I can find things now. We don't have, I probably had, I had a lot of shoes, and so I don't have as many shoes anymore. And it feels, at least for me, where I am in my life, it feels better not to have all that stuff. I don't have to keep it clean. I don't have to, I don't have it there reminding me that, I haven't worn it in 4 years. It just feels better to live a lighter life for me right now.
Yeah, I'm bad about the clothes I haven't worn in 4 years. I'm like, but I'm gonna be that skinny again. I'm gonna keep that.
So I had clothes for just a whole spectrum of sizes, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stay this one size, and so I'm not gonna need this, and I'm not gonna need this. That's just it. It kind of makes you decide what's important. And I kind of like that, because I don't want to have these options in this particular case,
I totally agree. And I think so. I mean, I think you've got everybody like ready to do this. I'm ready to go rent my house right now and go on safari to Africa. But let's talk about this, because I think this is going to be the biggest question everybody has at this point in the show, is like, how much can you make doing something like this?
It depends. It depends on a lot of different things. So I tell people who are thinking about doing this to do an analysis, just like you would if you were selling or buying your house. You need to know what's going on in your specific market. So are other people in your area doing this? What are they charging? Is there some anchor kind of that would attract guests to your area? And, it doesn't have to be the beach, which it wasn't. And it doesn't have to be a convention center. It could be a hospital or a university. I get a lot of people who are bringing their kids to college, and they want to, they don't want to just dump them. They want to be there for a while, or they're coming for a graduation or a wedding or some kind of family event, and they want the whole family together. I've had several different guests come who were one of the family members were having a medical procedure. So the family wanted to gather with the patient while they were recuperating before they could travel. So, so that was a convenient thing for them to do. So the point is, why would guests come to your space? Why are you there? Think about that. So once you do that, and once you understand what your market is like, once you figure out, what spaces are you actually allowing access to? Do you have 2-bedroom? Do you have a one? Do you have a like just a lower level that you're giving access to? What part of your home are you sharing? And then, you've got to, when you do the analysis, you've got to compare, apples to apples. Don't compare your 1-bedroom studio to to a 4-bedroom house and think that you're going to get back same kind of nightly rate. And then you've got to decide, how much disruption are you willing to tolerate? Will you be gone the whole summer? Do you want to do, just weekends? Are you going to is 4 days on, 4 days off? How do you want to set it up? And once you come up with that kind of plan, and some, for a lot of people, especially families, it takes some forethought, right? If you can only go in the summer, but you're going to go for the whole summer, you got to start planning a ways back to, where's the stuff going to go? What dates can we actually take people on? When are we going to open up our calendar? How's this going to look? And then, you do like everybody else does with a short-term or mid-term rental. You kind of test the market. And if you're getting interest at a particular price point, cool. If you can experiment and bump it up a little bit the next time, that's even better. If you're adding, amenities along the way to sort of upgrade your space. I mean, when I first started out, my price, because I was so nervous, I didn't think anybody was coming, I charged $500 a night. And I was thrilled. And, but then I was like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't, you can't get 4, hotel rooms for $500 a night. And so eventually, as I, honed in on my actual guest avatar and what kinds of things that they want, and I started to fill the house with those kinds of things based on the income I was getting, then I just, I kept going up and up and up. And then the market will tell you when you're, when it's time to just level off.
Right. So I think the next question that all the listeners probably have is like, how do I do this? And you can help them do that because you have a course on how to do that. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have a membership community, and inside it, because people have a lot of questions, and they have a lot of the same kind of questions because we all want to know, where's your stuff go? Is it safe? What should I charge? What stuff should I have? And so we get together in our community and we talk about those things. We talk about regulations because that's always different. In Chicago, it's different, neighborhood to neighborhood, building to building even. So not all dwellings are permitted to rent on a short-term basis. So we go through some of that. We go through the setting of business because it actually is a business. This is a business once you start charging. It may still be your home, but you're in business now and you need to operate in terms of the government, the IRS, and everybody else. You've got to operate like a business. So what does that look like? We do that. And we literally, I've had several people very insecure about their space. Is anybody going to find my space attractive? Is my space okay? Is it big enough? Is it, is it fancy enough? Is it whatever? There's a lot of anxiety around that. And so I will, have them take their camera and go around and show me their space. And because I've been in real estate for so long, and you know how it is, you're a realtor, so you know what a well-staged space looks like. What it should look. How bright the picture should be. The toilet seats should be down in the photos. You know how to make a space look great in a photograph. And so we go through all that, and then we go through writing the description, and I will kind of hold their hand through the process, because of the level of anxiety people have with people coming into their home. I think it's something you need to do with support. It's easier with support.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, Pam. So we're winding down, and now we have come to the final 3 questions of the show that we ask everyone. First question, what advice would you give 20-year-old Pam?
I would say, hey, girl, have as much fun as you can. And then I would say, because I started investing right around that age. And so I would buy and flip, and, there was a lot of appreciation was really kind of, unbelievable back in Chicago at different points in my career. And so I think I would say, all the stuff you're buying, don't sell it. Keep it. Don't, because I was buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling. Just keep it. Figure out, rent it. Figure out something to do with it. Now I would say, put a short-term rental or mid-term rental in it, but, hold on to it because, because that's how you build wealth. The buying, the selling, the buying, the selling. Okay. I made a lot of money, but the real wealth, the long-lasting wealth is in the holding of the real estate.
I agree with that as well. I've only sold 2 things in my life and I've regretted both of them.
I regret all of the ones that I sold. So, it's hindsight, but that's what that's why I tell my daughter and young people, I'm like, okay, buy it and then hold it. When you buy it, in your mind, consider that exit plan. If you want to personally get out of it, if it's your residence, what else can you do with it? So think about that as you're buying.
Actually, before I go to the second question, I have a question that I should have asked during the rest of the interview that I want to ask now. Who does the cleaning? Do you clean it or do you have somebody else do it?
No, I have a service and, I've got a cleaning fee built into my arrangement with folks. Okay. And I will say this is one thing. This is one way I had to manage myself because like I said, I'm kind of particular about things. And so there were times early on where I would come back to my home before the cleaning service had a chance to come in. And I'd just be beside myself because, not so much of the cleaning that needed to be done, but people would, rearrange the furniture sometimes, whatever. I'd find, a chair upstairs that belonged downstairs or something. And, for me, I was like, why are you moving my furniture? I don't understand. And it was distressing. It was stressful. And so now I have the way that I manage myself is that I have my cleaning service come in before I get back home. And when I walk in, it's like it never even happened. Like no one was ever here. And that is how I'm able to, to do it.
To do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I handle me.
Awesome. I think that was an important piece of information that I didn't ask previously. So now back to the regular scheduled programming here. Okay.
Yeah. But that's important though, because, you put that in your fee, you build it in. Nobody ever challenges it. No one's ever asked me anything about it. In fact, there are people who have stayed longer than 4 days who have asked for additional cleaning. So, people to come in and clean mid-stay, which if you're going to stay with me longer than, I don't know, maybe a week, I want you to have. I require another cleaning because I need my cleaning people to come in and make sure everything's okay. And and I also don't want to come back to a huge mess.
So being an attorney, because I'm always scared they're going to say like, oh, your cleaner stole my whatever. Do you have them sign anything that says the cleaner's coming back in? We're, like any sort of a waiver?
The guest or the cleaning service? The
guest.
I mean, outside of the regular lease agreement, I don't have them. I've had no issues with it at all. Actually, it's not a part of my lease agreement specifically. But I think people anticipate a lot of issues. Mm-hmm. I haven't had them. I think if you set it up and you create a level of trust from the very beginning, like in your very initial conversations with people, like I said, they're not coming to screw things over. They're coming to hang out with their family.
Yeah, you're right. I'm jaded.
I'm a lawyer, so I've thought through all of that stuff, right? I'm not just, it's not like it hasn't occurred to me, but I don't even know if I was pleasantly surprised. I was probably shocked at how few issues I've had with the whole situation. Really just shocked. I've seen all the, horror stories or whatever. I've seen all the sensationalized, whatever Airbnb accounts and the party houses and all that. But that's not who's coming and spending as much money as it costs to stay in my house. I think if you have spaces where you aren't charging a lot, you have to vet your guest maybe a little bit more just to just to offset anything that might happen.
All right. Great advice. So, second question, what advice do you have for a new investor who's looking to get started today in short-term rentals?
You know what? I didn't do this. I didn't do this my whole career, and I was wrong. I would find a mentor, because finding someone who's done what you want to do will just escalate your learning and your business and everything that you do. Avoiding all the pitfalls and the mistakes and everything that you have to do. If you find someone else who's done it, and you just, you're like, let me just sit next to you when you do what you do, you will advance your scenario so much. By osmosis, almost.
Also, great advice. And last question, what's your favorite book that's impacted your mindset?
You mean outside of the Hospitable Host book series? Yeah. So the Hospitable Host book series is really cool, and without it being just self-serving, it is. You get to see how, what are we up to? Almost 100 different hosts. How they do their business, and it's different for everybody, and that's what I like most about it. There's a lot of flexibility. You can kind of do it the way you want. You do it the way it works for you. Like, for us in our house, this works for us. For somebody else, it might not. But there are a lot of different ways, and you get to read all the host stories and see how other people are doing it. That's pretty cool.
Yes, that is a great series. And you're right. I think that so many people get caught up in like fighting with each other on the internet about the right way to do things, that they don't think about the fact that there is an innumerable amount of ways that you can be successful in not just real estate investing, but in the short-term rental space. There are 1,000 ways to do things and still be successful. And there's no one right and only way. Engineers who are listening, there is no one right and only way. And right. I think that's the cool thing about real estate investing is it's kind of you tailor it to what you want to do and what your needs are and what your goals are. And I think that that's what's so great about it is there's like, you can do it any way you want. There may be certain things that make more money than others, but that's not always what everybody's looking for necessarily. And
your goals could change. That's why I suggest that people hold on to the real estate, because what initially is a family home may end up being, that midterm rental down the line, or what, used to be an in-town place becomes a short-term rental. But just free your mind, kind of think about it. Think about how people use housing, what their needs are, and then, have some flexibility in your own mind to be able to service some of those needs.
All right. Well, all great advice. Pam, thank you again so much for coming on. If our listeners want to find you and follow you, how can they do that?
I am, the name of my membership is the Happy Host Academy. So I'm on all the socials as the Happy Host Academy. But I did want to mention, I am hosting a virtual summit for women in March. It's kicking off on International Women's Day. And I'm going to have a series of ladies come on, and we're going to talk about how to host guests in your home. It's just for women homeowners. So, it's just about what I've been talking about today, hosting guests in your primary or even secondary if you have a vacation home in a home you already own. Awesome. So it's free. Come check us out.
Oh, free. Even better. Y'all go check it out. And Pam, thank you again so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we will catch you later.
Hey, thanks so much. I loved it. Bye.